Hello, Chevre. I hope you're all gesund, stark und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. I hope you're all healthy, strong, and happy, physically and spiritually. Hashem should help that all those that are unwell should have a refuah shlema immediately, and that the magefa should stop now. In the last couple of days, many people have voiced and turned to me with a sense of frustration that they really believed that Moshiach was coming, and when they were going to open the door on the first night of the Seder, Eliyahu would bring Moshiach with him, and they're disappointed. I've heard this from colleagues, rabbis, students. It's very impressive that these people really believed. And now that it didn't happen, they're upset. And they're asking me, Rabbi, what do you have to say about this? So the truth is, as they say, stumped the rabbi stumped. There is no answer. The Rebbe has said many times that there is no more explanations of why Moshiach is not here. We have to turn to Hashem and say, it's all done, job done, mission accomplished, we can't take it anymore. But on the other hand, even though that's true, and therefore we're not offering any answers, but nevertheless, we have to look into Torah to see if there's any insights, something that sheds some light. So we'll start with a pasuk from the Rebbe's kapitel, which addresses the essential issue, which is emuna. And there's a pasuk in the Rebbe's kapitel that says, Derech emuna v'charti mishpatecha shivisi, which means I have chosen the way of faith, I have placed your judgments before me always. So, the question that arises, especially to a student of Chassidus, is what does it mean, Derech emuna b'charti? I have chosen the way of faith. We know Yisrael maminim b'nei maminim. Jews are believers, sons of believers, children of believers. What is the meaning of Jewish faith? As we mentioned before, in order to get to the bottom of any concept in Judaism, we have to have the true definition. And here we are addressing the general fundamental concept of faith. What is Jewish faith and how it differs from other faiths? So the Alter Rebbe in chapter 18 of Tanya says that what does it mean that a Yid has emuna? Yisrael maminim b'nei maminim means not that we chose God, but that God chose us. Just like a child is an extension of the parents, the parent DNA isn't the child. There's a God particle, a God DNA, which is in every single Jew, a homing device, which is always going God, 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 remaining loyal, attached, and driven and focused towards Hashem. Whether the Jew, the Yid, feels this or not, that is the reality. So, in every single Jew, just like he has a consciousness, and he doesn't know how he got this consciousness, but it's there, he has a soul consciousness, whether he feels it or not. And that's what makes him Jewish. And that is the definition of a Jew. Similar to what the Rambam writes, that every single Jew wants to do God's will. Even if you go over to a Jew and ask him, do you want to do God's will? He says no. And we say, no, you're wrong. You do want to do God's will. So that's what it means, faith. So if we say Yisrael maminim b'nei maminim, what does it mean over here? We say Derech emuna b'charti, that I chose the path of faith. So maybe you could say, and here we see the genius of the Alter Rebbe in another place. In chapter 42, the Alter Rebbe tells us that the word faith, shehu lashon regilus, shemargel ha'odem es atzmoi k'mei אומן שמאמין יodov v'chulu. He says the word אמונה, faith, also comes from the word training. Like a craftsman, that's a אומן, שמאמין יodov, a craftsman who trains his hands. So if we're here, we see something amazing. You know the whole discussion of nature or nurture. What is it? Here we see it's both. Of course, a Jew is given a neshama, and because of that neshama, he has faith. But the question is, that's what God gave you. But what have you done with it? Has it remained latent? Is it hidden? Or have you tapped into it, exercised it, and made it grow? The famous example of why we need to keep on feeding the faith, like a flower which needs water, our faith needs nurturing. So the famous example of this is the Gemara that says, a thief, before he commits the robbery, he's standing over there, digging the trench into the bank vault, and he says, God, 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 give me atzlacha, success in my robbery, in my theft. Question is, what's the story? Does he believe in God or doesn't he believe in God? If he believes in God, how could he be doing something which is contrary to God's will? If he doesn't believe in God, why is he turning to God for success? And the answer Chassidus gives is that he does believe in God. There's no such thing as a hypocrite. His neshama is still connected and is loyal. The problem is that this faith has never been properly defined, digested, internalized. In other words, he's never asked himself seriously the question, what does it mean that I believe in God? How does my life reflect my belief in God? How am I living my life in accordance to that belief? And that's what it means that you have to feed the faith. It's not only enough that you have the faith that God put into you, Yisrael, maminim, bnei maminim, nature, but you need the nurture. You have to feed it. You have to contemplate. You have to meditate. You have to learn. You have to study. You have to exercise that faith. And that's why we see in life all the great sportsmen, Olympic athletes, musicians, the greatest of any fields also follow the 10,000 hour rule, which means they have an unbelievable inborn talent, nature, but guess what? Those very same people, in order to reach their maximal potential, also exercise their nurture, which means they worked at it constantly, going from level to level. And the same thing is true with emuna. And by the way, this is exactly what the Haggadah means when it says, "V'hi שעמדה laviseinu v'lonu." What sustained us throughout all the years? Our faith in Hashem's promise to us. In other words, it was always tested. We went through history, heights and lows, but still we kept this faith. And this faith in Hashem's promise to us kept us going and kept us strong. But our faith was constantly tested, developed, and grew higher. So this answers the question. Of course. Why are we still here? Nobody knows. But one thing we can say for sure, that the emuna that we had yesterday is meant to grow today. We turn to Hashem and we say, you thought my faith was going to become diminished now? That we got disappointed? We're frustrated? You're wrong. Even though it didn't happen yesterday, my faith is even stronger today. It didn't fall for the fail of yesterday. It's as strong as ever, and it's even stronger, because even though there was the big so-called fail of yesterday, nevertheless, I'm still hanging on. So therefore, my hanging on is in a stronger way. When the going gets tough, the tough get tougher, which means the idea of emuna as training, we're constantly training our emuna. So for the days of Achar Pesach Tavshin Pei, we have to train. We trained our emuna to reach today and believe even though it didn't happen in the first days. There's a story, an anecdote they say about Reb Yoel. It's humorous, but it's so powerful. And that is that Reb Yoel was once by a bus stop with another Hasidic Jew of another group, a Polish Chassid. And this other person was waiting, and they were waiting for a long time for the bus to come. And he expressed himself, "Biz the bus kimt, can Moshiach kenshin kimmen." He said, by the time the bus arrives, Moshiach could already be here. So they say, Reb Yoel turned to him seriously and he said, "What's that to? The bus is a shaila tisa kum nit. Of Moshiach kum sicher." He turned to this person and he told him, the bus, it's a question if it's coming or not. But Moshiach is definitely coming. So here we see that to us, Moshiach is not a dream. Moshiach is a reality. Our conviction is 100%. And the conviction remains strong. And that's the uniqueness of Jewish faith. Even though it seems to be inexplicable, and even though we didn't see the results for 2,000 years, nevertheless, it didn't become weaker by one iota. It's still as strong as ever and stronger. And that's the definition of Jewish faith. Broadcasting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, your man in Melbourne. Moshiach now.